All right, we are live. So this new CFRA, the date range will be from April 1 of 2024, as most of yours should be ending 3/31 of 24. So the new CFRAs will have a start date of April 1st, 2024, and an end date of March 31st, 2029. The new CFRAs you're about to put in for should be 5 years. I have noticed that some departments have started new CFRAs that are only 2 years or some arbitrary date range. Don't worry, we'll get those fixed. Unfortunately, cooperators only have one shot at the date range. Once you start the CFRA, you cannot change it, but we can. So don't panic. When your district personnel goes to sign it, they should be checking the dates and changing it. If they don't, please note that email address on the screen, fbs@dffm.az.gov. That is going to be your friend going forward for everything FBS related. Issues, questions, recommendations. Rather than sending it to one of our personnel directly, that's the one you go to. It is monitored by many different individuals. Christopher, Lucy, Yasminka, myself, Shannon, and Jessica are all monitoring that. Not necessarily daily, but I will promise I will be monitoring it daily for the next 2 weeks, up through a week from Friday. I will be monitoring that daily. As you have any issues, I'll help you as quickly and efficiently as possible. If after your fire district personnel signs your new CFRA and the dates are still not correct, please send an email to this FBS email address and I'll come in and I'll change them and make sure they're correct. We have new standard equipment rates that take effect April 1st of 2024. So when you do create your new CFRA, you may notice the rates are different than your current one. That's by design. It should be pulling from the new rate sheet. Some other changes in FBS in 2024, which is why we kind of delayed this, and I do apologize and thank you for your patience, but we had some changes in FBS coming and we wanted to get them into production before we did this process. One is that you should have a unique name for each of your pieces of equipment, and we'll get to that when we get into the actual demonstration. All road equipment, i.e. vehicles, must now have a license plate, a VIN serial number, and a year all defined in your CFRA. About 10 days ago, I ran a check. There was 258 pieces of equipment with no license plate. About 50 pieces of equipment with no VIN serial number. The majority of the departments just had a handful of equipment. So when you're going through with your new one, if you could please check, make sure those are all set for those with vehicles. Anything that is one of these kinds, so remember, and we'll go into it, there's a kind and type combination when you're creating these pieces of equipment in your CFRA. Any kind that is an engine, emergency medical equipment, light duty vehicle, medium duty vehicle, or water tender must now have all three of those pieces of equipment of license, VIN, and year. If you have any special rates, such as an all-inclusive rate or some piece of non-standard equipment, please contact Shannon Kelly or Russ Shoemate for your rates. Please note that due to scheduling, those rates may not be updated in FBS right away. So please give them time to figure that out, but they will get in eventually. Okay, with that, I'm going to switch. So one thing, if you haven't been on recently, that you will notice, the log-on menu has changed a little bit. It's a lot nicer. It's easier to see that you're logged into Arizona. We actually have had people try and log into one of the other states. There's, I think, seven or eight states now on FBS. So we want to make sure you're logged into the Arizona site and make sure you're logged into the production site. So on the, make sure there's nothing right under here that says this is the test or test site, something like that. So as long as there's nothing that says you're in a test site, you are in production. That's good. Type in your username and password. Log in. First thing you need to make sure that you're under your personnel equipment setup role. If you're not under that role, you cannot change, create, modify equipment in your CFRA. So if you're not getting that ability, you don't see this menu, you don't see CFRAs, you're not in that proper role. Many users have multiple roles. So just make sure you're under the personnel equipment setup role. So as you see, we have the 4/1 of 22 to 3/31 of 24 CFRA. We go into it. We have 5 pieces of equipment. I know it's not much, but it's enough to show you. One thing you might notice, 2 are named engine 1. So I told you before, they must have a unique name. If some of your equipment has current names, once you create a new CFRA or add a piece of equipment or edit that equipment, they all have to be unique from that point forward. When this rule was put into place, it didn't check for existing equipment, but going forward, if you were to edit, and we'll show you when you create a new one. So you see there's engine 1, engine 1. They're not unique names. And this is the rate. So if we go back to CFRAs, to create a new CFRA for the new term, just come up here to the upper right corner, create new fire rate agreement, this link right here. Click on that, and it brings up the menu along with the date. I prefer to, you come in here, it's a little bit, yeah, not so user-friendly, but we'll work on that. So if you type in April 1, 2024, so I can type 03/31/2029, and it should jump to that. Now, again, if you make a mistake and click create, don't panic. It can be changed by DFFM staff at some point. Don't go in and recreate more. Just create it, move forward, and then let someone on DFFM staff know that it's the wrong date range, and we'll fix that. So you get one shot at this. You click create. Notice it says rates and equipment from the most recent fire rate agreement will be copied forward, and this number will be assigned to creation. So you create this, and here we have AZ test 24/1. Notice the term 4/1/24 to 3/31/29. You go into resources and it copied them all. Now notice what it did here. Engine 1 stayed, but now it's engine 1-2. So you can go back in if you want and rename this anything else you want rather than engine 1-2. You can rename it whatever you want. But the system noticed you had the same name, so it forced the change for you when it created the new CFRA. If you need to change anything outside of here, you go to agreement, you need to change anything under here, contact information, address, whatever. Remember, there's a little pencil icon here. You click on that, and that will allow you to change those fields. Click Save. Notice we come down here under the memo, testing, changing info. So just remember the little pencil icon will allow you to change anything here, your representative, your phone number, whatever. When we go back into resources, if we go into this second engine and edit, remember what I said, this has no VIN and license plate. It's got a year, but no VIN and license. So if I just went in and click Save, now I'm getting an error because I'm editing it. Because it's a vehicle, it's under the kind engines. Remember I told you engine is one of those kinds that has to have this information. You're going to get this error. So make sure you enter the VIN. Obviously, this is the test fire department, so these don't really matter. But yours, we want the actual VIN and license. And as long as you have an entry and then click Save, go in, now you've saved it. If you need to add equipment, right here under Resources, just say New Resource. Choose the kind. So if you want engine, type 6. Now, one thing of note, these FEPP rates, even if your equipment isn't necessarily FEPP, if it's old equipment, if it should be getting the older rate, we've lumped those into here. So the FEPP and the old equipment have the same rates. So if you have an older piece of equipment, 20 years old or older, you'll need to choose one of these two, either for type 1 through 5 or type 6. So we'll just do a type 6. Type that in. And this information, make, model, manufacturer, that you can enter that. We haven't populated with every single entry, so if you don't find it, don't panic. These are, at least for now, these are optional fields. But the year is definitely mandatory. This is also optional, the size. Standard staffing is not optional. So it has to be within this staffing min-max level here. So we put 3. Okay. You can do, if you want, FEPP. If it is FEPP, of course, we didn't choose that rate. You'd click here, then you can enter the tag number. But the tag's only available if you click this FEPP checkbox. Otherwise, you can't go in here. If it's 4x4, 4x2, these, you want to make sure and mark these. These don't do anything other than make sure that dispatch is aware of the capabilities. So you want to make sure if it qualifies, you check those, and then just click Save. And now we have this type 6 engine also. If you need to print your CFRA, there's the print CFRA up here in the upper right. There's also a CSV. CSV will export into a comma separated value file or a dumbed down version of a spreadsheet that you can convert to a full spreadsheet once you open it up. But that's basically what it is. So if you have a lot of pieces of equipment, the CSV is probably a good way for you to look at it. So we can click on it real quick, open it up. And basically it just has all your equipment here. And so you can quickly go in and see if anything's missing on the license and VIN. So we notice there is a VIN serial number missing on one piece of equipment. But you can quickly get a listing of all your equipment this way. It tells you the term and so forth. The packet will print the CFRA and any additional documentation. So when you're on the agreement, you can upload files. So there are some cooperators. If you're one of them, you have to have a wet signature, board of supervisors or something. You click on the print CFRA, have them sign it. Then you can upload it here using this. Then you can go in to sign it. Unfortunately, this needs to be signed by someone with this personnel equipment setup role. So even if the person signing it is not the one pushing the button, you're uploading a file, someone still needs to come in and sign this. And then it'll put a date, time stamp, and who signed it. At that point, it transitions to the DFFM staff to go in and approve it. Unless I forgot something, that should be pretty much it. Like I said, it's a fairly straightforward process. It should copy all your stuff over. That's why it should not take too much time. There should just be maybe some tweaking, maybe to the name or the VIN license fields, and adding any new pieces of equipment. But for the most part, it should be fairly simple. That's one of the strengths of now having it in this FBS system. Creating new CFRAs are going to be simple. Now, this one's for 5 years, so obviously you just want to make sure and maintain it. If you have any changes throughout the years that this is active, just make the change. I would recommend that when you do, send an email or call or notify your district fire staff personnel so they go in and approve it. Once you make a change, that CFRA will not be usable when you go and create a billing document until we've signed it on the DFFM side. So you can make all the changes you need to, but remember, every time you make a change, we still have to sign it so it's available to use for reimbursements. Okay. I think that should be about it for the CFRA renewal. Is there any district staff here from DFFM? Okay, there are. So I'm going to quickly simulate that. So if we go to personnel equipment setup, I'm going to switch role. Now, don't panic. I have a lot of roles. That's so I can test things out, make sure things are right, simulate problems people are having. Most people have no more than just 3 roles, 1, 2, or 3. So if you go into the area manager, if you're DFFM staff, you look at all in your area, you can sort it. Pending approval, here's, okay, where is my testing file? See, this is still something strange. I have to report that to, because I signed that. I know I signed it. It wouldn't be here if I didn't. See, it was signed. Okay, that's a slight glitch. So if you run into issues, let me know. I'm going to send that to the developers. Because this should have been instead of in progress, it should be waiting to be signed. So I checked the dates, I sign it. It's that simple from the DFFM staff. Obviously, you want to go in and check the resources, check them however you do it, however John Truitt wants you to do it. But ultimately, once this is signed, and it should not say that because it's already been signed, but it's still there, so you can still change the date after the fact. So that's why I wanted to let you all know if the date range you've created is not right, don't panic. We can always go back in and change the date and re-sign it. That's it. So I'm going to open it up for Q&A. Christopher Cole. Okay. Yes. Can you unmute or either type in the chat?
He gets mad at me when I don't call him to send checks.
Yes, this is Christopher Coles. We did try to attempt to access the CFRA and redo a new contract already. I was just wondering when would be the most appropriate time to start this whole new process on our new CFRA.
So when you say you've already tried to start, does that mean you created a new one?
I went to create it and it did not have the new pay rates in it, and I was told by one of your staff member to hold off.
Okay, yeah. Basically, you're good to go now after this training. You can sign off and go do it now.
Awesome. And one other question is, one of our new vehicles that we got on a grant is a Type 6. We're going to go up to Utah to retrieve it on the 28th. It will have the VIN like you're suggesting, but also we will not have, until we go through the state of Arizona process, we will not have a license plate. Is that something that you guys can later on put into the system?
So you could put under the license to be determined, or you're going to fix, put everything else in that you can. Just remember to go in and change it later.
Awesome.
I would recommend, unless it's going to be a long process, that you don't sign it until you get that information. Otherwise, you're going to have to redo it, and someone from our side is going to have to re-sign it. But that's going to be depending on the time frame you have. And remember that starting April 1st, if they're not signed, it's not going to be available technically going forward.
Okay.
To go out on assignment. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Tom, it's Russ real quick. Can I add a little bit to that?
Yes, sir.
From my perspective, now you're not my fire department, but from my perspective, what I would tell my fire department is just don't edit that engine until it's completely ready to go out on that assignment, because that's going to limit our touching your agreement and reapproving and going every time you add information, we got to go in and reapprove. So what I tend to tell my fire departments, if you're in that situation, don't try to edit it onto your CFRA until it's 100% ready, and that's when you do it. So we only have to touch it at one time.
Thank you, Russ. Okay. Yes, Porco Valley. Let me just do that. You can unraise your hand if we answer your question. Otherwise, Mike?
Hey, also just to add on what Russ said, if a edit is made in the FBS and it doesn't get approved right away, your status is unavailable in IROC until that FBS is done. So if you try to roster an engine or a piece of equipment, those personnel aren't going to show up because if you've done an edit and it hasn't been approved yet, it won't translate over into IROC or through dispatch, if that makes sense.
It does, and that's why I recommended that if you do, anytime you sign, you want to notify your district fire staff so that they know that there's something waiting. Now, they can set it up. You can go into here, for those of you on the district, go in this little envelope up here and go into settings. And you can have a do a text or email alert upon CFRA pending approval. You can, so fire staff, I believe it's the personnel equipment setup role. You can set it up when it's approved. You can check that. So when the DFFM staff approves it, you should get either a text or email. You have to enter a valid phone number for the text or an email. And it could be either or. You can set one or both of them up.
I think we want to also iterate that if you are going to edit it through the year, have it be a planned event, because yeah, we can set up these to get notified. However, we might not be available to do the approval right away. So again, what I tend to try to tell my fire departments is, if you're going to do this, and what we found out, and Tom, I don't know if it's different as it's evolved, as soon as they go in and start edits, it pulls the CFRA into pending. So even though you're not hitting signed and saying, hey, it's now sent to you, wait for approval, as soon as you start doing edits, and we found that if somebody started doing edits and they waited a couple days because they were waiting for information, I was throwing the CFRA into pending status. So again, make it a planned event and contact your battalion chief before you start the process to make sure we're available to do the approval as quickly as possible. What I don't want it to do is be sitting there pending with folks not available to approve it. So do some pre-planning and give it the battalion chief assigned to you to say, hey, we're going to start doing this. Do it quickly, send it to us, and we can approve it very quickly if it's that in that process.
Thank you, Russ. And just to piggyback on that, when you go into one that has been signed and you go to edit a piece of equipment and you click save, it's going to pop up. Are you sure this will need to be reapproved after this change? And this is what Russ is talking about. If you go in and try and make any kind of change whatsoever, and if you say yes, it's going to mark that as needing to be reapproved. So if you don't want to do, if you're not completely ready yet, just say no, cancel, get out of it until you're fully ready. Exactly what Russ just was talking about. Okay. I have Puerco Valley and Unknown that raised their hands. So,
Yeah, Tom, this is Jerry McGraw, Perko Valley.
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I may have just hit that on accident. So question I have for you. So I'm just in the infancy of the Perko Valley setting the CFRA. I'm not sure what they have in the system at this point. Is that going to carry over to this the new system, and I'll be able to see that when I put in agreement? Or
You should.
Is it
So,
what they had in the past?
so do you have your personal equipment setup role for your department?
Yes. I there's myself and two others that are set in that role.
So when you log in under that role, you should go to CFRA and see what's available. It sounds like you're probably only going to have one if no one has started a new one yet. And then you can go into that one and just see what equipment you have under resources.
Okay. Yeah.
And those
I'm not
should
even
carry
sure
forward.
Under the FBS, I'm not even sure anybody started anything at this point. Like I said, the other day I just got logged into it and it was mostly blank.
Okay.
So I'm recreating that. at this point, like I said, next shift, I'll get, dive into it a little further and try to get something put together.
If that's the case, if you don't have one already, you're gonna have to create everything from scratch. You're gonna have to do this new resource several times to get everything in. But Russ, Mike,
Yes,
correct
sir.
me if I'm wrong. I would recommend if they don't have one, just start with the 4/1 of 24 to 3/31 of 29.
Yes, sir. Yeah, just start with those dates and create one from there.
Yeah, and if you don't have one prior, there's no point in creating one for just a week and a half, 2 weeks. Makes no sense to me.
Yes, sir. And I'm like, again, I'm not even sure what equipment was in there in the past or if that equipment still exists. I'm going through what's currently, the equipment that we have now and trying to get everything updated and, equipped and ready to go for the season. But it's been a process.
Sure. And if, again, as I said at the start of this, if you have any questions, running any issues, email that fbs@dffm.az.gov. Give us a detailed information. Screen prints are very helpful. Sometimes someone says, well, I'm seeing this. Well, we don't know that. Please provide screen prints so we can see what you're seeing. It's very helpful in trying to help your issue, any issues you might be having.
Understood. And is there any way maybe, I guess I can get with you at a later date on that, but, no, thank you.
Yeah, I'll just, send an email and we can talk offline. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I may be blowing up your email this week.
Well, but make sure it's the DFFM, not mine. Mine's already
Yes, sir.
pretty big.
Yes.
Okay, there's an unknown with the hand raised. I don't know who that is.
This is Carl Whiting with Jerome Fire Department. My question is more on the personnel side, and that's how do I delete personnel that's no longer with the department?
Okay, so when you go under manage employees, there's a list of people. What you want to do, there is no delete button because it's an accounting system. We want to keep them. When you go into them, all you want to do is uncheck this enabled. If you
Okay.
if they're no longer going to be used, you've recouped all the reimbursements for them. Just uncheck this, click save. And then when you go look at your list, you can filter by show disabled, no. So you can uncheck this and that person will no longer show up on your listing. Only
Okay.
the-
That's simple enough. Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else? Stella. Login system, I logged into the system. The new fire rate agreement, new term is already there. I told the equipment setup role. But I didn't make these changes. I'm a little confused. Stella, can you unmute? Give me more information?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I apologize for that. So I logged into the fire billing system
Mhm.
and where we were instructed to create a new fire rate agreement with the new term dates, it's there already. The new term and end dates, they're already there.
Okay. And so what's your question?
Okay, so my question was, I believe that we were supposed to go ahead and create these with the new term dates as you did in the demonstration.
If you've already done it, if you already created a new CFRA, even if the dates are wrong, if they're right or wrong, that's okay.
Yeah, well, my confusion is I hold the setup role, but I didn't create this. It's already in there. I didn't
So
these changes.
what I would guess is that there's multiple people in your department with this role.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
You can have multiple people with that role in your department, and one person can have multiple roles.
Okay, so it looks like someone already did this.
Correct.
Somebody with the same role. Okay, I'll find out who that is. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, you know what? I have one more question, Tom. I'm sorry.
No,
So,
fine.
this year we'll probably have staff that are being deployed where they're gonna have a new, pay rate, like the new annual performance or pay increase. So at what point should I enter their new pay rates? So when they do get deployed, I make sure I have the new pay rates in there?
You could do that as soon as you create a new pay rate.
Uh-huh,
I know this isn't part of this training.
right.
I'll go in here real quick. So what you do,
Just go to manage
you
employees.
create a new rate.
Okay,
So you'll want to end the old date. You want to end date. Put an end date on the old rate, create a new rate. Make sure there's no overlapping. So you end date this,
okay,
create a new one, and then move forward.
okay. I'll go ahead and take care of that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anything else? Well, I thank you all for coming on the call. If you do wind up with a question you hadn't thought of, please email it to that fbs@dffm.az.gov. And we'll get to your response as quickly as possible. We've had a few, but I think we've found that most of it has been fairly painless for most departments. So, but if you do run into something, let us know through that email address.
Hey, Tom.
Yes,
Hey, just a reminder, when everything's completed with your CFRAs, everything's signed, it's all good to go. Remember to print out copies of those things and put them so your resources when they go out can have copies in case somebody asks for them.
very, very good tip, Mike. Thank you. So once they're all signed, it is good to have those and take them with you because they're requested at certain instances. So yes, it's great to have those with you.
They're actually required, so they have to have them. So make it an effort, make it a point that every engine and resource you send out has printed copies of them. Printed copies or electronic copies, but they need them at every incident.
Thank you, Russ. That's why I have the experts on the call. I'm pretty good with the FBS, but on the fire side of things, I'm in finance, not fire. So just FYI, those of you who don't really know me. Thank you. All right. Anything else? Anything I may have missed? Russ, Mike, Lucy? Anyone? All right. Well, thank you again. And I've said this on the other two trainings. I forgot to say it on this one. I told my staff we're going to be doing refresher trainings on the billing documents and probably the personnel entry, hopefully sometime in April. So we're going to be doing some refresher. I know most people have been doing that, but we have some new departments and I want to get them out there. And there are those training videos from 2 years ago are still on our website, but we've had a few changes, so we're going to update that a little bit. So those will be coming in a few weeks. Be on the lookout. Those will go out to the people in the data entry role or the billing document. For the personnel equipment setup, it'll be this same group that I sent these trainings out to. So those are optional refreshers. You don't have to, but we want to make something available to you. With that, if there's nothing else, I think we'll go ahead and close it out. I will stop the recording at least.